Hello, this is Josh Dumke of the Natural Resources Research Institute, and this is part 2 of the St. Louis County AIS Risk Assessment Tool use tutorial. I'm going to go through some of the filters and queries that are possible in this tool. From the main page, you can hit the AIS query, and you can have a section of yes or no responses for all of the invasive species, so that you can search for perhaps 2 invasive species that you are working with. If your group works with rusty crayfish and spiny water flea, you can say, okay, turn on all of the lakes that have rusty crayfish and spiny water flea, and then it will select just those lakes that meet those search criteria. So here we have 9 lakes that meet that. They have spiny water flea and rusty crayfish. And you can take that information and export it to a CSV file. It will download, and then you can open it, and that file contains the water bodies that have rusty crayfish and spiny water flea, and all of the information that goes across from the entire master data set. So this pulls out the water bodies of interest and gets all the information you want if you are searching that way by groupings of invasive species being present. The other way that you can search is by getting the filter tool to pop up from the bottom, and it gives you the option to fill in lots and lots of expressions. And I just cleared that by hitting the main tab so that my query wasn't going to be persistent into my filter search. So you hit filter here, and I should note that this little arrow, this little drop down here, this is where you access all of the filtering. And when you add expressions, you have the freedom to select a lot of different variables. So I'm going to select that there are trailer launches is at least 2. I'll add another expression. So we're going to do surface acreage is, we'll do 500 acres, so we're going for bigger lakes. And we're going to say that buffer counts for spiny water flea. Now this 20-mile buffer is explained in the Spatial Analysis tab. That is the distance that boaters are most likely to travel within 1 to 4 days among lakes. So we selected 20 miles as our riskiest buffer. We're going to say that there are at least 5 other lakes in the area that have spiny water flea, and we want the lakes that we are selecting to not already have spiny water flea. So we're going to select spiny water flea is no. Okay, so we're looking for lakes that have at least 2 launches. They're 500 acres. They have, that should be at least 500 acres. They have at least 5 other lakes nearby with spiny water flea, but the lake itself does not have spiny water flea. And we hit OK. Okay, and now it looks like we have a group of lakes up here that have met all of our criteria. And from this drop down, you can export this to the CSV file. And open that in Excel, and here we go, 3 lakes that met all of our criteria. So that's one way that you can pull out very specific information on the filtering tool from the main page. Okay, in the spatial analysis, there are 2 different things that you can do here. One is the spatial query, which you can find accesses within a distance. So I mentioned the 20-mile buffer. We'll do a point. Let's do right here in the middle of the county. Okay, there's 20 miles around that point, and you can change that distance if you wish. You hit apply. I'm looking for all the boat launches within 20 miles of that point. There's 59 launches, and again, you can export all this information to a CSV. And if you click on the launch itself, you'll just see the name of it. Okay, the other filter you can do from this tab is turn on the boater connections, and you'll see lots and lots of lines. You can identify a specific lake that you want to be turned on, so say Vermilion. In this case, it's got so many connections that you can't make very good use of the data. So we're going to filter that. We'll go down here, hit the filter button, add an expression, and I want to only find the number of less than 24-hour occurrences, and we're going to set that is at least 5. So these are boaters that have traveled to Vermilion within 24 hours, and that's showing up at least 5 times in our data set. And you can see that list of criteria goes down pretty fast. And there's the few lakes that meet this expression criteria. So one thing you can note is that there's different colored lines here. You can actually see them because we rarefied the data set that is visible. A lot of these connections are in the weak connection range, 1 to 9, but this one here is in the 10 to 34, and that's connecting Lost Lake with Vermilion. Okay, in the risk assessment page, there is one useful tool that we created, the calcium query, where you can set the limits that you want calcium to show up as by following criteria that you yourself prefer to use, or we list some ranges in here based on literature search showing that you can have very low thresholds for zebra mussel and quagga mussel establishment to moderate and high risk, whether or not they meet that the habitat criteria for calcium. So I'm just going to use 15 and hit apply. And for all the lakes that have calcium data, it will pull out the ones that have at least 15 part per million or milligram per liter. And you can have that show up a little better by turning the layers off. So again, with this, there's 16 lakes that meet that criteria, and you can do the exact same thing that we've done before, export it to a CSV file, and then you can look at the lakes that are meeting that expression. And the last thing that you can do, if all of these filters and queries are still not giving you the options you want, you can go to the entire data set with this Excel link up here. When you click on that, you're given a little bit of information on the data set. You can hit download. The entire data set will open up in Excel, and you start off with the water body master, and this includes all of the lakes in the project and all of the information that we have on those lakes. It includes water chemistry data from downloads and data shared with us by people contributing to the project. It includes all of the boater surveys and the connections. So if the searches that you were trying to do on the tool weren't working out, you can have the entire data set here and search yourself. You can see prior water body is Reed's Lake. That survey occurred in Vermilion. How far are the two lakes apart by road? Over 300 miles. By a straight line, 266 miles. There is one occurrence in 1 to 4 day time period, nothing in the less than 1 day. There was a total connection number of 1. There was one survey that included that, and that includes 1/10 of 1% of the total numbers of surveys we have. And then collaborator point surveys. These are the things that were expressed in the main page for rusty crayfish, spiny water flea, and vegetation surveys. This includes more information on their survey type and location and date and whether or not invasives were found or not. More information on who were contributors to the project. all of the boat accesses and whether they're trailer or carry-in, number of parking spots and such, how to cite the Webtool and a little bit about the project, and then the metadata, which explains all of the short names given in all of the worksheets. So you can see an explanation for everything across all of the worksheets that are in this master. And that's all. That's all that I have to share on just using the basic functions of the tool. If you have any questions, my name is Josh Dumke at the Natural Resources Research Institute. You can look me up and get a hold of me. Thank you.